Alright, time for another draftphysics.com video presentation. So, still, day 3. We'll count the ones where I don't make a video, I guess. And no response that I can find or know of, anyway. Didn't look too hard, but the usual places. No one conceding that, yes, there are good arguments that gravity is, in fact, a time-dependent force, not a distant dependent force. It doesn't matter how far you fall, it matters how long you fall in gravity. How long gravity is affecting you will decide how much velocity you gain and therefore how much energy or force you collect. Alright, so the inventor of this distance theory, that distance matters and time does not, is Leibniz. And his axiom was it takes the same power to raise 4 pounds 1 foot as it does to raise 1 pound 4 feet. And as I have pointed out, it's plainly wrong. It's not a correct axiom. It's fake and false, and it's a deception, and it's not the truth. And it's also true, I have done videos on it, 5-minute videos, debunking the Clay experiments of the 1740s, 1730s, where it was stated that you could use the displacement in a dent in clay as evidence of how much energy something has when you dropped round objects into the clay. Obviously, non-linear round surfaces. Then I've also done a 4 or 5-minute video on pointing out that rolling distance is also a deception, that you roll based on gravitational pressure pushing you into the ground, and the fact is the faster you're going, the less pressure per foot, and therefore the less energy you lose per foot. So lots of arguments against any notion that distance is the important feature, and lots of evidence indicating that time is what really matters. Again, I've made the argument that if I'm holding a 100-pound barbell and it's not moving, physics says I'm not doing any work. But logic says, no, you are fighting gravity, and it's about how long you're holding against gravity will decide how much work you do. So I will fix this visual problem. Alright, that looks better. Alright, so the simple argument is that, Leibniz was saying that you could drop a 1 weight from 4 units of distance, and that is the same outcome as a 4 dropped 1 unit of distance. And clearly it's not. 1 times 4 is 4 times 1. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. Oh, it would have been better if that was actually visible, huh? Yeah, it would be better. Why is... I don't think it's supposed to be that way. Anyway, I'll fix that later. And no, the simple argument is this is only going to be twice the velocity, twice the time, okay, and twice the weight, okay. And this is obviously going to be 4 weight. And so when they hit the ground, this is going to have twice as much force hitting the ground as this will have. It will not be the same force. And likewise, you can assume that it's just the opposite rules apply. Whatever force you get in from gravity, you're going to get the same force fighting it backwards. So I thought of this simple experiment that proves the point. So you put an 8-pound on one side of a balance, a 4-pound at 1 unit of distance, so it's half of this mass, and then you have the other 4 pounds, so to speak, the 4 units of weight in the form of a 1 mass, okay, 4 units of distance from the fulcrum, and that will balance, first off. But more importantly, what it will do is if I place this on here and let it fall, these two things will rise. This one will rise at 4 times the velocity, okay, which would mean if you launch them, it'll go, we don't need the feet really. This will go 1 unit of distance, and this will go 16 units of distance. Because Galileo figured all this out, right? 1 unit of time gets you just 1. 2 units get you 3, 3 units get you 5, 4 units get you 7, and that's what's going to happen when it launches. It's going to leave going 7 for 1 unit of time, and then it's going to go 5 in the next unit of time, and then it's going to go 3 in the next unit of time, and then the last unit is going to do the one thing that this is going to do. So this little tiny part up here will be the same time as this whole movement here, and all of the 15 extra units of distance are essentially a consequence of this extra velocity, which is a consequence of the fact that it's a time-dependent force and not a distant-dependent force. And so velocity means you will spend more time, okay, traversing distance. And so it's, again, the rolling argument is that, you can see that one, yeah. You give something one velocity, it just does this little thing. You give something 2 velocities, it does this thing, and this part will be the same as this part, and this part will be the same time as that part, same time. And that's what velocity does. Velocity buys you time in time fighting gravity, and it buys you distance. So it's clear Leibniz was wrong. So the theory you're defending is 1/2 mv squared. Okay, the guy who invented this part of it, all right, kind of the major part of it, was absolutely wrong in his axiom. So his foundational reasoning, the fact that he used to defend, he didn't produce evidence, by the way. He just produced these kind of logical arguments. And it was premised on a fallacy, something that wasn't correct, that wasn't the truth. Now, will any of you concede he was wrong, okay, that 4 times the distance with a 1 mass will not create the same amount of force when it hits the ground, and it does not take the same force to lift a 1 mass 4 units of distance as it takes to lift a 4 unit of weight 1 unit of distance. It's just not true. So you'd have to concede that it is kind of miraculous, frankly, that this theory could be right when it was all right for wrong reasons. That Leibniz was wrong, de Châtelet was wrong about the clay experiments and about rolling, and yet somehow it turns out they found the truth with a bunch of broken picks and shovels, with a bunch of broken axioms or definitions of reality, that they had the wrong facts and somehow got the right conclusions. Not very probable. And this is all in the atmosphere where they're claiming, it takes 9 times the fuel to go 3 times the velocity. That to go 3 times as fast, you have to use 9 times the fuel, or you have to use 16 times the fuel to go 4 times as fast. Well, obviously we have no evidence that any of that nonsense is true. So in that context, they will keep saying this is absolutely so obvious that you have to be an imbecile if you don't believe in this God, this Holy Ghost, this vaporous Sasquatch. You must believe, even though the first guy who thought of it, published anyway, had a completely wrong axiom, completely not factual. This is not a fact. It is an error. Okay, so it's premised on errors. And just concede the rational point that I can use 8 pounds here. This 4 pounds will go 1 unit of distance. This 1 pound will go 4 units of distance, and it'll go 16 units of distance because it has 4 times the velocity. This is 4 times the velocity out here. It's going to go 7, 5, 3, 1, 4 units. 4 units equals 16. That's the truth. Whatever distance this does 4 times that distance on the lever. Okay, but the velocity is 4 times the velocity. That's the key ingredient. So if they leave the lever, this one, let's say I did this is twice the velocity here. If I had a 2 mass here, same difference, right? Twice the velocity, all right? It's going to be 4 units of distance. 4 units of velocity, 16 units of distance. Those are the facts. That's how it'll actually behave. That's if they did these experiments, that's what they would actually find. But the trick is they haven't done any of them. So in hundreds of years, physics hasn't done any of these experiments and documented what they do. None of them. Which you can only again say, is that good science? Is that science you should trust? You should believe? No. That's religion. And that's what Leibniz was, you know, he spent 90% of his writing time talking about why God did what God did, how God does what God does. And that's it. And so it's a terrible waste of he was brilliant, but what's the point if you're going to waste it on all that much? And you could say the same thing for Newton. Newton would have accomplished twice as much, which seems impossible, if he didn't spend an inordinate amount of time contemplating why the Bible says this or why the Bible says that. So anyway, very interesting, great people, okay, but the fact is they made mistakes, and taking their mistakes and glorifying them and turning them into, cementing them into the foundations of your logic and physics, accepting their incorrect axioms, is just not very smart. And to do it aggressively, aggressively attack anyone who dares to say this little totem pole is a pile of mush, it's not founded in anything real or respectable. Come on. Alright, so there are some older comments on the older videos. So physicist Michael hasn't posted the lever experiment video yet, a couple months later. And he hasn't posted any other testing physics videos. So there aren't any comment chains there. Mindless Marvels hasn't done any of his, whatever he does, his comment thing. And so there really isn't any counter-argument to any of these recent videos at all. Despar posted a pendulum thing, experiment, but it's just as flawed as the other 3-to-1. He has a 4-to-1 mass ratio, and it's also not of enough quality to do any analysis. He doesn't even give the length of the pendulum. I mean, not very useful. So anyway, we're kind of just waiting for, again, a rational counter argument. Now, I'm just saying, will you concede? Will one of you concede that Leibniz was wrong, okay, to say 4 pounds 1 foot equals 1 pound 4 feet? That was incorrect. Can you at least concede that absolute fact? Okay. Can you do it? Alright, so anyway, in this comments, there's a Dick Woodman is complaining again about, he says, I tried to reach his videos, but when I told him there's an issue with his website, he blocked me. Yes, but first off, there's not an issue with the website, okay? It works, so fuck you. It's just a waste of my time to explain it to you. One person can't access the website. I should panic? No, I'm not going to panic. Alright, and I'm not going to do it on a public comment section, okay? So if you want to email me because you have some issue that you know is sure that the website doesn't work, fine. But that's not what you did. Alright, so fuck you. You've done it in the past. The whole point is you're probably IP blocked, which means you went way over the line. You didn't go a little bit over the line. You went way over the line of getting into my personal life and being a rude motherfucker. So you're blocked forever. Okay, that's not going to change because you've proven who you are and what you are about. You're a malicious terrorist, frankly, and I'm not gonna reward you in any way. But anyway, so, and the joke is here, right? I can't reply, right? He won't let me access the 5-minute videos, right? So just let's understand, they're on YouTube, shitbrain. The fucking videos are on YouTube. They're not on the website, okay? The website is just presenting the videos. You can view them on YouTube. They all have the same frickin' title, you retard. I mean, what a bullshit excuse. I mean, absolute bullshit, right? I mean, just such nonsense. Okay, anyway. So then the bass and bass guy wants to, I guess that's what he wants to be called. Um, they're on YouTube. Let's see. Oh, he points out they are on YouTube. So yeah, it's kind of hilarious. Um, he never told me that. Instead, he blocked. See, and more. I'm supposed to tell him personally. I'm supposed to explain everything about how the internet works to this one fucking moron. No, I'm not going to do that. All right. Anyway. And he just says, look, you can make your own videos, retard. No one's stopping you from having your own channel and producing your own videos. Do what Mindless does. Just make comment section thingies, community little pages or something. Do your little ragging. You can do it on your own space. You have no I have no obligation to invite you into my house to take a shit. Shit in your own house, fuckhead. All right. So anyway, so then the mindless marbles and the bass guys start arguing about what Galileo said. Okay, and so yeah. Look, the important thing, you can find the statements, right? So right in Newton's second law, Newton clearly says you want to go twice as fast, twice the force. You want to go 3 times as fast, 3 times the force. Completely pointing out that he does not believe in any squared function. So you can say, oh yeah, he understood that this 1, 3, 5, 7 creates squares. That is, if you add all this up, if you add up 4, okay, 4 of these things, the number will be 16, the total. It'll always be a square of this number. 2 will be 4, 3 will be 9, 4 will be 16 if you add up the total distance. And that is the same as the time. The 1, 2, 3, 4 is all about time. So yeah, but that doesn't mean that Newton or Galileo didn't know that it's the distance that's quadratic, not the force, not the time. The time isn't doing anything quadratic. It's the exact opposite, frankly. It's a tiny percentage of the distance. That's the real trick here, right? 16 units of distance, only 4 units of time. All right. So they go through here. So the spaces described by a body falling from rest with uniform accelerated motion are each other as squares of the time intervals employed in traversing these distances. Right, which doesn't mean he's saying it's 4 times the energy. There's no way Galileo made Leibniz's mistake. Galileo did not think 4 times the distance equals 4 times the energy. The power. So anyway, in this conversation, let's see if there's anything. There's nothing meaningful. Okay, so I respond to an earlier White Henry comment. I guess I probably should read that just for cleanliness sake. DS says there's no external forces involved in his coupled oscillator. I wonder how his pendulums would work in space without external force of gravity. So that's like the clicking ball thing. You know, then it's just the string that's creating the orbits, and clearly you just could end up with pendulums that just swing both ways, and they hit at the bottom, and then they hit at the top, and then they hit at the bottom. So nothing dramatic. I give them velocity. They'll be forced to travel the curved path, and they'll keep doing the same thing over and over. It seems to me that the external force of gravity is a requirement for pendulums to oscillate. Without it, they would tend to just spin in a circle. Well, obviously, if there's 2 of them, they're not going to spin in a circle. They're going to hit each other going opposite directions. But whatever. Oh, look, there's more. When the Earth pulls on the pendulum, it causes it to slow down, change direction. So what? The pendulum pulls on the Earth, and well, yeah, obviously what it's pulling on the Earth with is gravitational force and nothing else. You can claim something's going through a fulcrum, but you're just claiming it. And opposite force. As the pendulum loses momentum, it fights against gravity. The Earth gains the exact same amount of momentum from the pendulum. So again, you can say it, but it's just not true. The pendulum's movement does not affect the Earth. When the pendulum regains, I mean, it doesn't affect it with the same force, obviously. Then the pendulum regains its momentum after it has stopped at its maximum height. The Earth loses the same amount of momentum. So again, you can say so, but it'll never prove so. This is conservation of momentum. This is a made-up fable that things that aren't moving are somehow moving. Somehow you see something not moving, and you're claiming it's moving. Okay, the momentum is repeatedly being exchanged between the pendulum and the earth. So again, this is the argument about the steel anvil and the fact that you can bounce the ball bearing hundreds of times on the anvil. And their argument is that somehow every single time there's a reflection of the energy, momentum went into the earth and moved it in the same direction. So it's essentially a perpetual energy machine for the earth. That somehow you could just swing a pendulum and move the earth almost forever, faster and faster. DS confuses momentum with energy. No, you do. You confuse a wrongly axiomed squared velocity, whatever a squared velocity could possibly look like, whatever square velocity is, with something called energy. No energy is lost to the earth, only momentum. This is the paradox that Lewin ends one of his lectures with. He ends it. He says that it should that it should be kept. He says that it should keep you up at night, wondering about how he can claim that when you bounce a ball off a wall, the wall gains 2x the momentum. Yes, the wall doesn't move. And he doesn't state in that lecture why. I mean, obviously, if it's not moving, then what's the catch? How can it be momentum if there's no velocity? Velocity is essential to there being a thing called momentum. It's mv, right? I mean, if velocity is 0, how can it be momentum? But 0x the energy from the ball. Well, how did you figure that out? If there's 0 velocity, then there's 0 kinetic energy. Duh. I mean, you can't have kinetic energy with 0 velocity either. So I don't even understand. You're really going to recite that as if that makes any sense on its face. Kinetic energy is made of momentum. If you have momentum, you have to have kinetic energy. And if you don't have momentum, that is, you don't have a velocity, well, you circularly can't have kinetic energy either. The ball's momentum goes from p to minus p, change of 2p, but its kinetic energy stays the same, and there's absolutely 0 evidence of any of that mush, and exactly how could that possibly happen? I mean, kinetic energy is made out of momentum. You can't possibly have momentum and no kinetic energy. It's just not possible. Okay, the wall's momentum increases by 2p, but the KE stays the same. Baby talk, right? He says with a question, of course it's just absolutely drivel. How can you make any sense of saying something has momentum and then tell me it doesn't have kinetic energy? I mean, what possible MV numbers? I'm put real MV numbers in, right? The momentum isn't 0, so if I have positive momentum of any kind, or even negative, whatever you call that, if I have an M and a V, you have kinetic energy. So how can that make any sense to you, even by your own fucking idiotic theory? Alright, so I responded to that with, absence of gravity wouldn't change the colliding pendulum experiment much. They would collide at an arbitrary top and bottom and in their circular path. No external force to take the momentum. Okay. Your claim that the pivot or fulcrum would take away energy from the system is substantiated by no evidence. That is, if the anvil isn't moving, I'm bouncing the ball, the anvil is not moving. You're claiming that what? The table the anvil's on is moving? No, the table isn't moving. The floor, the earth, obviously it'd be so distant there couldn't be any possibility that the earth could even hear the pendulum hitting the anvil. Okay, the idea is that it's so distant it could never react anyway. It's bounced before, at the speed of sound, the signal from the fact that energy is in the object wouldn't even be able to get there, let alone the energy. The energy doesn't travel faster than the speed of sound, it travels at the speed of sound. So there's no way for it to even get to the center of the earth and move the center of the earth, because it can't get there. Your claim that the pivot or fulcrum would take the energy from the system is substantiated by no physical evidence. If you attach something to an unyielding mass, the energy is conserved by reflection. So they don't believe in reflection. They don't believe energy goes into something and just flies back out. It just bounces off the surface. The surface is elastic, it bends, it deforms, and it pushes it back, and that's all there is to it. There's nothing more complicated than that. Nothing else moves. They don't believe in reflections being just that. Energy goes in, can't move the object, reflected back out. If the mass yields or absorbs momentum, any momentum, that is, if the anvil moves, well, then it's the ball ain't bouncing back. So anytime I move a brick wall I'm throwing a ball at, the ball doesn't bounce back as far. The more I move the wall, the less the ball bounces. Fact, again. The reflection will be proportionally reduced and the system will lose momentum energy to the very fact that it gave something else the energy. If something else has the movement, if something else has the MV, you had to lose it. Nothing can have MV without taking it from something else. Something else has to give it to it, or it has to take it from it, but it can never get it for free. Alright, so no argument to that comment. Now there were some snarkyisms by that Piro creep somewhere in here, so I figure I could reread that crap. Yeah. Maybe it's in this pile of crap. I did respond to physicist Michael also, I believe, without reply. Oh, it's gone. It would appear. Let's see. 4 days ago. 4 days. 4 days. 4 days. 6 days. I don't think I posted my comment that long ago. Appears to be missing. Alright. Yeah, the number said 95, and now it's 85. That is a little weird, but let me try this one. Alright. Let's see. It's a terrible way to, organize comments. So that's Farley. Let's see. Yeah, I thought somebody said something very rude, and so I responded 3 days ago. Here we go. Mindless Marvels. Let's see. You claim that my claims have been directly addressed isn't credible. Okay, so that's where, Piro said something too. Is Piro in here? No. Weird. Anyway, let's just read what Mindless says. I am deliberately trying to give a comprehensive reply, but you do blah blah blah. But shortly, I understand your point completely, and the problem is your post are implicitly falsely premised. So he's saying that, but this is a response to this other guy that, it's just about an argument, and frankly, you people can't argue with shit. Let's see. Nowhere in comments have I followed this discussion for quite a while now. Does anyone commend Gary for asking questions? Let's see. He says something in here, obviously. Well, there's no point in reading his garbage, right? Yeah, there's not much garbage there. Well, anyway, my comment was, your claim that my claims have been directly addressed isn't credible. Now, obviously, none of the 5-minute videos, the content in them has in any way been addressed. They haven't pointed out how the rolling distance video is wrongly premised or wrongly argued. They haven't argued the 9.8 meters per second, per 1 second video is wrong. They haven't touched the denting clay. They haven't touched the ball bearing bouncing on the anvil. Not one of the arguments has been touched in any way by any of this crap they spew. You are taking one underanalyzed experiment. Okay, so we're talking about the free momentum experiments. So clearly underanalyzed in the sense that where they haven't tried it with the Newton's cradle, so that's a historical fact. We can't find that experiment anywhere. So all we have are bad videos of it that we can't really do a decent analysis to see if it's actually creating extra momentum and then destroying the extra momentum, when it's all kind of understood that, yes, Newton's cradles basically are conservative. You put energy in, the energy has to come back out. That the motion of the objects when they're elastic is that the rules of elastic is any MV anywhere has to, any MV you put in has to come back out again. All right, and they're saying, no, that's not right, actually. It's factually true that Newton's cradles actually can make momentum and destroy momentum. And claiming that it's all you need to establish a proof. Okay, so I'm just saying it's pretty thin that they're taking one experiment done, over and over and over again, and saying that's all they need. So this is sort of like the idea of denting the clay and saying, okay, that's all we need as proof. And we won't really analyze what denting clay means. That it could matter what shape you dent the clay with, an arrowhead or a flat surface. Like somehow that would make a difference when, yes, of course, the shape of the object would make a difference. This is the same mistake made in the 1740s with the clay experiments. The counter evidence is substantially in all the experimental evidence your science has not collected. So the argument is clearly you could solve this, you could fix this tomorrow by just showing it taking 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. Show it happening somewhere. Show a motor doing it, show a car doing it, show a tricycle, show something doing this 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. Or 16 times the fuel to go 4 times as fast, or 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast. Show that one place in the universe, and then bingo, you win. But you haven't done any of that. None of it. None of the obvious evidence have you collected. In 300 years of preaching for a theory, you haven't gone out and collected anything that could be called hard, real evidence. All the crash testing that hasn't been done using devices as simple as a Newton's cradle. The fact that you haven't even had the curiosity to substantiate that it does in fact take 9 times the fuel to go 3 times the velocity is glaring defect in your evidence or claimed proof. So they're just sitting here saying they've won the argument, they've proved it, they've shown us in so many ways, they've proved their theory. Again, and all they've done is the same experiment 697,000 times and nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. Okay. The unrepeated Eddington experiment and the glaring fact that it hasn't been even attempted from space is clear evidence that your science is not interested in evidence and that you're not interested in it. You're not a promoter of gleaning or creating evidence. You're not a promoter, a nagger. You don't nag science. Show me anywhere where you've nagged science that should do an experiment now and then. I mean, it's amazing. You people are so frickin' dishonest. And the crap after that has nothing to do with my comment, of course. The last 5-minute video he made was anything but healthy. What does that could even mean? The guy is arguing with himself. More nonsense. Ignoring what others say. What have they said that I have ignored? What exactly has been said that I ignored? Will you please show me the ignored reasoning or logic? Liar. And projecting his own misunderstandings on them. So again, who's misunderstanding? Leibniz says it takes the same energy to lift 4 pounds 1 foot as it does to lift 1 pound 4 feet. Is that or is that not nonsense? Listening to me is scary because it's completely lost in his own world. Yeah, the world where, you have to be a little bit more careful. And, but yeah, it's a world where, gee, can't you show me anything? I mean, you can't do better than one stupid air card experiment? Okay, you really can't show me it even taking twice the fuel to go, 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast? You can't even show me that one? The only thing he wants is our energy, which is just, I don't know what that is. Yes, he refuses to listen. So this is whatever a Robert is. Refuses to understand. So again, what they have refused to do is reasonably respond to any of the 5-minute videos I've created. Not a single reasonable response. Then claim that no one is responding because they don't agree with his misunderstanding. So clearly that's not what's happened. You haven't responded in any way, debunking, pointing out where in the video I said something wrong. I just described a whole bunch of stuff here. Will you describe where I said something incorrect about the actual physical reality? Leibniz clearly did say, this is my primary axiom. Is that axiom nonsense or is it the truth? Do you believe it takes the same energy? Okay. It's just amazing. they are responding. Where is the response? He's simply not listening. Where? Where is it? Where? Where is a response? Where is it? Show me. All right. He thinks the entire world is in one big cabal. No, you're not. It's obviously it's a cabal, but what's a cabal of? Fear, desperation. I mean, clearly, why are you clinging to a theory and not even admitting the actual facts? Would you actually admit that Benjamin Franklin arbitrarily assigned plus and minus wrong? I mean, will you even concede that fact? I mean, it's an absolute fact. You got it backwards. He'd admit it if he was alive today. He'd say, yeah, whoops, 50-50 chance, didn't work out. Craps, I lose. Got the wrong answer. No fault of his, but I mean, it's just the fact that he flipped a coin and he picked badly. To protect kinetic energy that is just as crazy as flat Earth. So again, I'm pointing out how everything that was the origin of this theory were misconceptions, misdefinitions of very important realities. Okay, whether it's reasonable to drop round things into clay, whether it does in fact take the same energy to lift 4 pounds 1 foot as it does to lift 1 pound 4 feet, when 1 pound 4 feet is pretty easy compared to. Anyway, I mean, it just goes on and on. It's more than being stubborn. So I'm stubborn because they haven't provided any evidence at all defending their theory, and they haven't countered my arguments at all. And that makes me stubborn. I mean, this exaggeration, it's so fucking ironically stupid to make arguments like this. I mean, what do you think somebody in hindsight is going to say? When this is all over and the truth is discovered, what are they going to say about these people? I mean, what is the excuse for this total excess? Okay, he is showing signs of age and not being clear in his mind. Yeah. It's a fact. I mean, and frankly, my vocabulary ain't what it used to be. But who cares? I mean, there's simple enough arguments to make. Was Leibniz right? All right, if I drop 1 pound from 4 times the distance as a 4 pound weight, do they make the same hole in the ground? Is the same energy put into the ground? What do you think the truth is, stupid fuck? Okay. I don't think he's able to separate his own arguments from others. What are the other arguments? Per second. That's the only other argument. Per second. Per second. I can say it all as many times as I want because it's just fun. That's an argument? No, it isn't. Sometimes it gets confused. Has anyone said to him that momentum 50 in opposite directions equals 100? So again, where did I argue otherwise? Oh, that's right, I didn't. Okay, he uses that to show a paradox? No, what I show to show a paradox is that if I do a Newton's cradle, okay, with just the other side of the free momentum experiment, that clearly I'm destroying momentum. I mean, it's just a fact that there's less movement in the universe after the experiment there was before the experiment. There's less matter moving. That's a pretty significant statement to be making, frankly, that no physicist actually says in a video anywhere. But the total momentum is 0 according to the standard model. Well, we already know the total momentum. Saying the total momentum is 0 is kind of just, again, it's childishly inaccurate when things are moving. To say that a piece of dynamite creates 0 momentum is, what the fuck? What do you want me to say except, God damn, your science sucks if that's the kind of crap you're going to say? Did anyone else see him writing 0 on the board? I didn't see it. I don't know why the fuck would I do that? I mean, again, we're just back to the bullet and the gun argument. Well, what? The gun undoes the bullet? Nothing's moving in the universe. There is no momentum. Yeah, you fired a bullet and the gun's recoiling, but yeah, there's no movement in the universe. I mean, it's too ridiculous. Let's face it, it's ridiculous to talk that way. Let's see. Yes, I see what you mean. I'm not sure why he doesn't understand the consequences of momentum having a direction. So again, obviously, I'm saying every single piece of energy in the universe has a direction. There's no such thing as non-directional energy. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's right. I can't even for a moment conceive of what you understand energy to be when every single bit of physics I understand, little lowly photons have a fucking goddamn direction, for fuck's sake. I mean, this is just idiotic. And how the direction can cancel out the overall net momentum of a system. Well, I don't see how they can cancel unless they crush their fenders. But if they don't have fenders to crush and they're elastic, well, they're not going to have a choice but to absorb all of the energy and leave with the same energy that went in. The same momentum in has to leave the same momentum out. I guess it stems from his claim that momentum is energy. Well, of course, that's exactly what it is. If the word energy was around back in Newton's day, he would have wrote energy right there in the second law. He's arguing something entirely different than what regular physics says. Right, something entirely different than what Newton said and what I say. Twice the fuel, twice the velocity. 3 times the fuel, 3 times the velocity. All right, but at the same time doesn't seem to understand what regular physics is actually saying. Well, I don't know. Yes, I will state to you overtly, I don't understand what zero work means when I'm doing work. That's right. If I'm sweating and doing work, I'm not going to really understand you saying I'm not really doing any work. All right. Yes, let's be clear. He claims that momentum equals energy. So again, they just keep, like, this is a real reach. I mean, what the fuck is momentum if it isn't a type or a form of energy? I mean, to sit there and discount it altogether as meaning almost zero, I don't even understand how you can think that way. Especially when Professor Lewin says things like, well, nature can deal with kinetic energy one way or the other, but nature can't finagle momentum. Therefore, he claims we are free energy nuts. Well, I'm just saying that's exactly the claim in Leibniz's argument, all right, 350 years ago. So I could read it to you. He has a whole little paragraph on perpetual motion and how it's impossible, and that how the Newtonians believe in perpetual motion. Now, the only reason why he thinks they believe in perpetual motion is because his axiom is incorrect, okay? Something dropping 1 pound, dropping 4 times the distance does not weigh the same as 4 pounds dropped 1 foot of distance, 1 unit of distance. It's not a fact, and it's that fact not being a fact is why he thought their physics created free energy. So it is a real and vital argument. It is the core of the argument 350 years ago. The argument that wasn't resolved by good evidence, the argument that was resolved by the silly clay experiments that you won't respond to. Because in his model, when you treat momentum as a scalar, so whatever a scalar is, I have no idea, it's voodoo, it's magic, it's just some magical word that, oh, we have energy in scalar form, whatever the fuck that means. So it doesn't have a direction, it's just some sort of magical blah 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 stuff. Okay, the total momentum after collision, small mass hitting a stationary big mass, will always be much, much more than the initial momentum. Which, yes, doesn't make any frickin' sense at all. Whereas when you treat it as a vector, momentum is conserved. So obviously, again, they say conserved means there's the same amount going this way as that way. When, frankly, the gun's not doing that. There's the same momentum going this way, it's the same momentum going that way. You say there's 2,000 joules of energy going one way and only 2 joules going the other way. I mean, that's a gigantic contradiction, you have to concede. As well as kinetic energy. So you can't conserve both, it's just baby talk. Alright, as long as he refuses to accept that momentum needs to be subtracted, yes, I don't know why it needs to be. They're elastic objects, why does it need to be? He will continue to end up with free energy and therefore calling us free energy nuts. Well, that's what's going to happen. That's right. There's one side that's right and one side that's wrong. I'm pointing out how all of your evidence is corrupt. Okay, from Leibniz's misunderstanding to Descharteles's misunderstanding to the imbecilically silly work equation where you say it's force times distance when it's obviously force times time. So, yes, keep talking shit for the shitters. All right, I don't think people understand Gary's point. We understand him perfectly well. His babble has nothing to do with science. So there's 13 videos, 5 minutes long, just drawing the diagrams. They could simply point out where I said something wrong in those videos. All right, rational descent is built upon the foundation of knowledge, but Gary doesn't even understand primary school math. Well, then why don't you show that? Why don't you show that in the video? Why don't you point out where I said something wrong in this video? Why don't you just show where the mistakes are? You lame bullshit artist. His physics channel is just an extension of his philosophy channel, so this is more bullshit. I won't read it, I guess, because what the fuck could it have to do with reality? So this is on physicist Michael's channel. So he allows people to, whatever this crap is, he's a 63-year-old sociopath. So I should say that on my channel about physicist Michael. I'll call him a, whatever, 30-plus-year-old weaselopath. What the fuck? I love it when claims have to be paid into the system. Therefore, it's fine for him to refuse to get a job. Isn't that interesting? So again, this is more legitimate conversation on your channel, Physicist Michael. So you kind of know this is where they're going. This is what your allies are made out of. So this is what the science defenders have to do, is put me on the defensive where I have to explain my life. I have to defend my life. You know, I mean, it's just grotesque that he gets away with, that these fuckers get away with this on the internet. That this is a legitimate tactic. That I can just call Brozo a child molester, right? I should do that. I should write it in text somewhere, okay? And make accusations that you don't have any facts, you don't have the story. You're just going to make an accusation and force somebody to defend themselves against it. It's just disgusting that they get away with this horse shit. Alright, I just watched his latest video and he says you can't keep anything still in gravity. Yeah, so the guy thinks that's funny. If you're feeling the earth pushing up, which you clearly are feeling on your ass, don't you understand that there has to be a down, or you would keep going up, wouldn't you? Right? I mean, if you can feel the earth pushing you up, you really have to be able to figure out that, oh yeah, if I don't go back down, I would keep going up. Boy, your people are so fucking dumb. It's, let's see, it's KE is the real deal, then there should be no problem responding and debunking to, oh, that's the other guy. I just watched his latest video and he says you can't keep anything still in gravity and that everything bounces up and down, which is why your butt gets sore. I don't know what to say. Well, why don't you make a counter argument about how it actually works, how we actually function. When something is sitting on a surface, what is the surface actually doing? What's actually taking place? Millisecond by millisecond to the actual little pieces of electron, proton, atoms. What are they doing? Do you really think they're not moving? You really think they're all just sitting there stationary and there's no action? You're really fucking stupid. You think your body isn't trying to compensate for the unevenness in the pressure? That this part of my body is in a different, is getting a different amount of the noise than the part that's closer to the surface? I mean, you're really fucking stupid if you don't get that, yeah, there's parts of you that are going this way, and there's parts of you that are going that way all the time. I'm sorry you're an imbecile, but that's frankly what you are, and to be mocking other people from your imbecile position makes you a double imbecile, frankly. Dunning-Kruger. Yeah, you have a psychopathic disease. Alright, anyway, what a pile of absolute shit. There's a comment in here somewhere by Piro where he said some horse shit about how, well, we should just respond with, we proved you wrong already. Yeah, because we did it. We provided a whole bunch of the proof stuff. Didn't you see all the proof stuff we made? I made a whole bunch of proof stuff. Didn't you see all my proof stuff? but I don't see it. Oh, yeah. It's time for you guys to admit that Gary has been answered and answered. So where the fuck are these answers? Where are any of these videos explaining how, well, if I put 8 pounds on here and I put 4 pounds here and I put 1 pound here, that somehow that won't balance? Where are those counter arguments? Oh, that's right. They don't exist. He hasn't been answered at all. When he doesn't like an answer, so there is no answer. I don't like answers that aren't answers, okay? Saying, it's per second. Don't you understand? Yes, it happens per second, per seconds. So, per second. 60 miles an hour per hour, Everybody says it that way. All right, you guys have an agreement to call that not getting an answer. So it's just amazing. Sorry, I mean, it's just amazing. I'm the one saying, well, why can't you show it taking 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast? Somewhere in the annals of your physics. Why can't you show me that and end this whole argument? Why can't you do it? Is it really that hard an experiment? I mean, fuck, it'll take trillions of dollars to do the experiment. What's the excuse? Oh, the Hubble telescope can't do it because if it gets any sunlight in it, it'll blow up. What's the excuse for this one? I mean, they always have excuses. Amazing. Tripe. Let's see. You know DS for longer than any of us. Do you think he is aware of his deception? So what, it's just so dishonest. Again, what is the deception? I'm pointing out the deception of Leibniz. I'm pointing out that his axiom was completely wrong. Will you agree that, oh, yep, he did make a mistake. He did found his entire understanding on a false premise. It's frankly just false. It's a fake, phony, and inaccurate axiom. It's not true. Okay, he premised it on a false belief. Or is he deceiving himself? So are you deceiving yourselves when you sit there and pretend you won't accept the simple truth that the founder of your Jeebus was in fact wrong in a basic axiom of his philosophy? That he had a basic fact wrong? You won't admit it? All right, I get the sense that he believes what he says, and is so invested in it that he cannot accept being wrong despite the evidence. So all the evidence, he says it again, despite all the evidence, not any evidence. There is no evidence. All the evidence is one fucking experiment. That's it. And every other single fucking experiment that you could possibly do is irrelevant. Again, I could go back to the clay experiment. I mean, are you going to defend it? It's the foundation. It's what your theory rode on to fame. Do you really think the editing experiment was a legitimate proof of Einstein being right? Do you think Einstein deserved a New York Times headline saying Einstein proven right based on that experiment? Are you that dishonest? When the guy who did the experiment said, yeah, I only got 10% of my data collector was broken, and I only got 10% of what I was looking for. I mean, you people are so dishonest. So I'm just saying this, obviously this is what people are. They're just fanatics. Okay, there isn't any science. There's no even sociology. There's no such thing as a real science here because it's just politics. It's just you're a Trumper or you're a foreigner lover. You don't have any choice to be anything else. Okay, anything that suggests he is wrong cannot be evidence because he's not wrong. So again, I'm pointing out, I'm giving you my arguments, why I logically believe. You won't counter any of those except to keep saying it's per second. I say so. And you lie about what Newton said, of course. All right, it's almost a religious position. I mean, clearly yours is the religious position, the unevidenced assertions. Exactly what he accuses everyone else of, and appropriately accuses you of exactly that. You have no evidence, really. You've compiled nothing. You're just lawyers arguing that, look, here's a drawing of a gun. Doesn't it look just like his gun? Right? We can imagine it, right? We don't actually have to prove it takes 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. We'll just draw a picture of it. There, we did it. I mean, these people are just such weasels. Let's see, can I ask you why you stopped making videos? Oh, Piero, he's Mrs. Piero. Well, he stopped making videos because every video he made was a loop-de-doo pile of nauseating shit that only a fucking ex-bread maker could find any purpose in listening to him. You know, a phantasmagorical ex-bread maker. I mean, there's only like 3 people that could stand listening to the fucking turd because everything he said was such nonsense. Alright, anyway. Enough said. So, until the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. God damn it. People suck. It's just such a truth. I mean, it's just suck after suck. Oh, God, you just... So few people of any kind of intellectual integrity. I mean, if any of these people had intellectual integrity, they would admit, okay, I'll admit that, yes, some of the logic used to defend the early days of defending MV squared was kind of specious and inappropriate. And yes, the fact is they, had it wrong. Just like Newton had speed wrong, right? He was saying the reason why light travels through glass or does this or does that is because it's moving faster. He was wrong. So it's okay. You can be wrong and still be right. I mean, Feynman even says that, right? I mean, Newton got the right answer about light being a corpuscle, but he had the wrong reasoning for why it was a corpuscle. So it's possible. So just admit, okay, that's what happened in this case. Yeah, so what, a couple of your founding fathers, got the right answer for the wrong reason. So it happened twice. Maybe it happened 3 times. Just admit the truth, though. Don't sit there and pretend it's not the truth. It's not an absolute fact that they got the right reason for they got the right answer for the wrong reasons. That Leibniz's reasoning was wrong. Okay? He was, in fact, defending something that wasn't the truth. He was believing in something that wasn't true. Just like you assholes are. Frankly. You're just redoing the mistakes of the past. Instead of learning from them, you're just a tragic, just the mutant, children of failure. So... but not to have the integrity to admit when, yes, you have to concede. It was poorly founded physics 300 years ago. The argument was poorly, the foundation for the argument was poorly referenced. All right. Till the next time and such.